All right, everyone, here we are for part 3 in this titanium Planetary Freecoaster component series where I've been showing off and installing these titanium parts for the Planetary Freecoasters made by Wheelhouse 41 over in Thailand. So we already showed the video previously weighing the different components of the original that came on it, you know, the chromoly, and then weighing the titanium and figuring out the weight differences there. We did the unboxing video. Now this is the part where I'll be taking the parts out of this loose hub and putting them into the one that is on my bike right now. So to do that, I figured it'd be fun if we weighed my bike and saw what the weight difference is afterwards once we do it. So let's move this over here, turn the scale on, currently zeroed out, and let's go ahead and put my bike on it and see what it comes out to. 26.5. One more time. 26 pounds, 5 ounces. So in theory, it should be closer to 26, even 26 pounds, 1 ounce. We'll see once we're done. But for now, I need to go ahead and get my bike onto the stand so that I can take the rear wheel off and then take this hub apart to put the different components in it. So see you there. All right, so here we are, rear wheel off of the bike, and now we need to disassemble the hub so we can start putting the titanium components in. If you didn't remember or you haven't seen the previous videos, I have titanium axle nuts, a titanium jam nut for the drive side, as well as a titanium driver. I've already put the bearings, pawls, and springs in, and a titanium axle. It is a solid axle. They do have a hollow version that is available. And I left the bearing on here because this hub has never been built up before, and I figured if I'm gonna switch it out, might as well if I have to take out the bearing from the current hub anyways, I might as well just go ahead and swap the bearings at the same time. So we can go ahead and take off all of our components from our axle. I have the alienation circle jerk here. This is a chain tensioner that is a washer on your axle at the same time. It's actually really, really awesome. I have videos about these things. If you've never heard of them before, they are super, super cool. It looks like I may have hit mine at some point. Either way, that's off now. Take off our jam nut on this side. And then instead of just pulling my driver out and making it more complicated, I'm just gonna thread my axle nut on here backwards to the axle to where it's smooth there. And then I'm gonna go ahead and grab a Park Tool hammer. Shout out to Park Tool as always. And that pounds the bearing out of the other side, which is gonna make it a little bit easier to do the rest of what we need to do here. So I can take this axle nut back off, and this whole entire assembly, there's the driver, the whole entire assembly will come off and come out much easier now, as you can see. So that axle coming out of there allows the clutch to fall out much easier as well. So much easier to take the clutch out of one of these hubs this way. So now we are just left with the hub shell and the rim built up. So I'm gonna set that aside. Set aside the hammer here, and we're gonna have to take off our axle nut from this side, as well as our hub guard that's on here and the jam nut for the non-drive side, because I'm gonna put on a new bearing. And this is one thing that I say is a huge plus to having chromoly guards, at least chromoly non-drive side guard, is that the guard just, you can see there, the guard just came off very easily. So realistically, I could just use the jam nut from the other one, but I don't want to do that. So we're gonna go ahead and take it off of this axle, and then we can put it onto the other. Now I'm gonna make sure that I'm greasing the threads on these things, because this is an aluminum jam nut going onto a titanium axle. And for a bit of story time here about how I messed up. I completely deleted this entire video from my memory card, thinking that I had already transferred it to my hard drives for editing, when I in fact hadn't. So that meant that the video was completely gone, and I had to get recovery software for this memory card and recover it, and certain parts of the video could not be recovered. They were just gone. And that includes everything from what you just saw to me putting the non-drive side jam nut onto the new titanium axle. So I'm sorry, I messed up, but at least most of the video was still intact. And actually, I would say everything important about this video was luckily still there. We just missed one piece here, and then the weighing at the end, which I can redo very easily because nothing changes there. So yeah, I messed up. Fun story, funny story, silver lining. It worked out in the end. Let's continue the video. So now we're ready to go ahead and take our non-drive side jam nut and thread it onto the new axle. So there's definitely some tight spots, but now that we're getting it on there, it is going just fine. Okay, and now that we've got it most of the way threaded on there, I'm gonna go ahead, finish it with that, and make sure that it is tight. Okay, so that's good there. Let's double check hub guard. Yep, everything works as it should. And I believe I can just go ahead and grab my wheel and put it in there. And I suppose I could put on an axle nut to the axle here and just go ahead and tap the bearing into the hub, just so that that part is done. Use the plastic side. Looking good there. Oh, so smooth. And the next step is to put our clutch back on. Put it back onto the axle. We line up the slots in the hub shell with their corresponding whatevers on the clutch itself. And then that is done there. Then we grab our titanium driver here and slide it onto the axle. Man, it's wild. The whole hub is that color now, like raw metal. And now we grab our titanium jam nut, but before we go ahead and put it on, we need to put polylube onto the axle just to ensure that nothing seizes. So now we definitely want to make sure that we tighten this down good, because this jam nut needs to be tight in order for the hub to work properly. So we'll grab our 6mm, grab the crescent wrench, and tighten this jam nut down. There we go. Oh yeah. I haven't rebuilt this thing in quite a while, so I am stoked. See that? It's loud, but it's working every time. Yeah, that's sick. At this point, we are ready to grab our hub guard, put the hub guard on permanently. Then the next piece would be the circle jerk, which, shoot, I completely forgot how I had these oriented. Probably should have paid attention to that. Either way, I'm gonna put the larger side facing in because they are better that way right now since my chain's stretched a little bit. Another thing that I want to make sure we have polylube on the axle for, it's better to clean off excess grease than to try to deal with the mess that was caused because it wasn't there. So I'm looking here This is the peg side, so that means it goes like this. We got one side on, and that means we are ready for the peg and the axle nut. Oh, just kidding. I was gonna put the chromoly one back on. Nope. Titanium it is. So sick. Never had titanium axle nuts before. So we get this one started. All right, so that's started on there. Now we can go back to the other side, and I'm just gonna reapply to make sure everything is good. And now this side circle jerk goes on, and I realized just now too that I guess it really doesn't matter when I'm actually putting it onto the axle. What matters as far as which side goes into my dropout, because that's gonna be what dictates which of the lengths or whatever you want to call it is actually working for us. There we go, got that on, and now we can grab our axle nut, or washer. Washer is the correct word. Or no, you know what? Did I use one on here? I did, okay. Washer and our other axle nut. Axle is still greased up, so that shouldn't be a worry there. And now we have a fully built Alienation Venus with titanium components ready to go on my bike, and I'm pumped about it. Go ahead and put it into the frame at this point. So I want to make sure before I do that the correct parts of these chain spacer tensioners are going forward, larger side forward on each one. Good there, good there. Now we can go ahead and not tighten yet, because I gotta put my chain back together. If you've been following this channel for any amount of time with me working on bikes, you know that I am a fanatic of the Odyssey keychain. And the reason why is because of how easy it is to take the chain off and put it back on. I am a broken record about it, but it is just so nice. So I'm putting my chain back together right now with an Allen wrench. Boom. That simple. So nice. And I guess one thing I really need to do before I even finish this process up is I need to go ahead and, now that the hub is all the way together and everything, I need to make sure that I am tightening all of these jam nuts down to seat bearings fully. Make sure that the bearings in the driver are seated. Make sure that the bearings in the, or the bearing in the hub is seated. And this just ensures that. So I'm using the Allen wrench here, tightening down on that. Okay, so that should mean that it is solid. I don't really necessarily want it that tight for actually using it. Just snug tight for me. And now we can put it back in and be good. So we've got everything situated. The last thing for me to do would be to reconnect my brakes and make sure that everything is centered up with my setup so that when I tighten this down, we are all good to go. Okay, so solid there. Make sure I have my proper chain tension. If my Wooder Designs tire wedgie wasn't in my car right now, I'd be using it to guarantee that I have a perfect setup. Okay, that's in there. In theory too though, the Alienation circle jerks, that's what they're made for, is to make sure that your wheel is where you want it, or at least that if something happens, it can't get too far off. And as you learned earlier in the video, I messed up. We lost the ending of the video where I weighed my bike after putting all of these titanium components on. Luckily for me, that was all that was lost, and it's easy to reweigh my bike because nothing has changed since I put this stuff on here. So we just turn the scale on. I keep it floating in here. I don't know why. It just makes me feel like it'll be more accurate. Zero it out, make sure it's all good. And now we can put the bike on the scale. 25.11. When I first weighed this thing, it was 26.6. So I'm honestly not too sure how it's even possible. 25.13. So there's some variance there, but you get the point. The bike is lighter with these titanium components. And if you want to see exact weight measurements, I did it in a previous video comparing the weights of all of the components to their chromoly counterparts. And this is the part where I've got to give a huge shout out and thank you to Wheelhouse for sending me these components and just for making them. This is something that I don't think any of the companies making Planetary Freecoasters would have done on their own. And they took the initiative to do it in a way that anybody will be able to buy these as they come into stock, which everything and all of these components are linked in the description down below with their pricing. And they have fair pricing too. It's really awesome to see this, and I just love the customization factor that's possible with it. And for people who care about weight, that is a huge thing as well. So thank you to them. Thank you to you for watching this. And if you pick any of these up, let me know in the comments down below. I'm stoked on it. I've ridden my bike a bunch since then. No problems so far. And yeah, not much else to say other than I'm really, really happy, fortunate, lucky, grateful that I was able to recover this video, because when I saw that it was gone, literally the entire video gone, I was really, really sad. Luckily, recovery software that comes with the memory cards that I have saved me and saved enough of this video to salvage it, or most of the video at that, and now you're able to watch it. So thank you for watching it. Thank you again, Wheelhouse. Check out this stuff. They make a ton of other titanium components as well. And if you want to get an Alienation Venus, I believe Albies is still selling them for $115. So you could get the hub and an axle or the driver for about the same price as the hub costs retail, normally not on sale. So that's huge. Anyways, we'll see you guys tomorrow for another video. Goodbye.